Well, hello there, friends and lovers, and thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy, Nasir, and you, and we are glad you are here. See some of y'all in the chat, and it is good to see you joining us live. If you are catching this after the fact, the live show, Sunday night, 6 o'clock Eastern, is where the action is, because that's when the chat happens, and we get to read your comments and questions. But either way, we are glad you are here. Thank you for joining us on this fine Sunday, February 15th. Yes, the day after Valentine's Day. But It's still the weekend of love, I think.
Oh, it is. As a matter of fact, it is Lupercalia.
Lupercalia.
Yeah, I think it's the 15th.
Is that?
Yeah, it is.
The werewolf's holiday?
Well, it's the Roman fertility festival. Sacrificing goats and a dog. That's sad.
As one does.
After which two of the Luperci were led to the altar. I'm not so sure what a Luperci is. They're priests.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's not terribly sexy.
Yeah, we've shared this one before. It's more of a kind of crazy party. Reminds me a lot of the way that they celebrated Christmas in Europe.
Yes.
With kind of irreverent revelry.
With Krampus and
all of that.
All the interesting beastly looking Satan things going
And it's a
around.
good thing, because this year we have, of course, yesterday was Valentine's Day. We could tell you all the wonderful things we did and silly things too. I wonder look at this.
Oh my God.
Come on. Is that crazy or what?
That's magic.
There were gifts for Valentine's Day. And all of that. So yeah, all sorts but here's the thing, this week. What are you giving up for Lent?
Catholicism.
Yes, I'm giving up religion for Lent. It's Fat Tuesday is coming up. That sounds politically incorrect. Shrove Tuesday. I don't know what Shrove even means. We just, here in Michigan, we call it Fat Tuesday.
Well, and here we also call it Punchki Day.
Punchki Day.
If you're Polish.
Go out and get some I don't know why it's spelled the way it is. Punchkis. So yes, go out, and they're not jelly donuts. They're richer than that. They're much doughier than that. They're a little less sweet, but
yeah,
it's kind of like pumpkin pie you have around Thanksgiving time. Punchkis you only have at this time of the year. In theory, could be any time of the year, but no, because Lent starts the day after. So that's why we celebrate Mardi Gras this week. I wish we were celebrating Mardi Gras this week. I wish we were in New Orleans.
Well, I wish we were in New Orleans, but we had hovercrafts to just sort of float over the crowds.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you shared some pictures of the crowds in New Orleans, and Mardi Gras isn't even here. Well, it's here. It's starts on Shrove Tuesday, but everybody's already there and partying for Mardi Gras in New Orleans.
And that started in January in New Orleans with all the parades. So it would have been nice.
We won't be there till June.
I can't wait.
I don't know how we're going to wait.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Robert, this is a total surprise here. I'm really considering making some muffliatas, the sandwich that they have from the Central Grocery in New Orleans. The Italian olive salad with
salad sandwich
with salami and other meats and cheeses and things. So good, muffliatas. So anyway, I want to make those for our next Glow meeting.
Some of you know Amy has much richer tastes in food than I do.
I'm a little bit more experimenty than you are.
Not so much an Italian olive sandwich guy myself, but I'm sure it will be wonderful. And some of our Glow folks, our regular Glow attendees and good friends of ours, are already in the chat. Good to see you there. Paul, Greg, and also Tom is on hand. Christopher Smith is in the house, and Matthew is here. Good to see you in the chat. Thank you for that. We'll see if Linda makes it. She said she might have too much art goddess business to do. So if you miss her in the chat, go to cordair.com, cordair.com. She's especially right now pushing Quent's new book. At least she was on the Your Own Brooke show, and that was kind of cool to hear Your Own talking about it. He's now read the first book in the series.
Yes.
And he did it on audiobook. Although he also said he has a print copy. Third book is not available on audiobook yet. You've got to get it either on Kindle or Dead Tree version, and you can read the third book of the Idolatry series. Mm-hmm. Or as Yaron mentioned once, the Adultery series, which was kind of funny to hear him say that. Yarvin is like Ringo Starr. We love Ringo Starr for his malapropisms, his malaprops. And Yarvin's the same way.
Peace and love. Yeah, we love Yaron for saying Judeo-Christian. Or
he does. He says judo-Christian.
Judo-Christian.
He believes martial arts and Christianity should be mixed, and I agree. I'm good with that. So I accept the judo-Christian ethics. No, I don't want to pick on Yaron. He's like smarter than me, even though I get these little opportunities to give him a jab now and then. But yes, we certainly encourage you to read Quent Corder's latest chapter, because there are chapters in each part, but part 3 of Idolatry. Or adultery, if that's more what you're into. I wonder, do infants enjoy infancy as much as adults enjoy adultery?
Ha ha ha.
So rude, so rude. So back to the beginning. Vizzini said, when the job goes bad, you go back to the beginning.
That's right.
Back to the beginning today is February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day, 3 days before Shrove Tuesday, Fat Tuesday. And then we all decide what we're going to give up for Lent. Until Resurrection Day, or really Bunny Day, which is what really matters.
Yes.
Christmas is in 313 days.
Yeah, and?
Well, we got to start thinking about what to get each other for Christmas. Because what I got my daughter and her sister for Christmas was one of these, and you decided to get me one.
Yeah.
Turns out they're selling these at the museum store at Greenfield Village. If you don't know what a zip string is, buy yourself one. It's guaranteed minutes of fun.
And Halloween is only in 258 days.
True dat. Halloween in 258 days. Summer is in 126 days, unless you're south of the equator, in which case that would be winter. Spring is in 32 days. Daylight savings time begins on March 8th. There are 1,070 days until January 21st, 2029. I don't know, 1,070 still. Anything more than 1,000 sounds like a lot. So let me cut that down and say 995 days, so less than 1,000, until Election Day 2028, which is on March 7th in that year. Now, we have an election day coming up this year.
Yes, we do. Hopefully it will go well.
Oh, Stephen and Jennifer are in the chat. That's good to say. And Stephen says, Zipstring looks like a fishing line. It's very, very cool. It's just a loop and a motor, and the motor just spits it out super fast. And if you're not too tangled up, you can get it, and it glows in the dark, so you can't get better than glow in the dark.
Right.
Too damn cool. We did some glow in the dark golfing yesterday.
We did.
Ultraviolet lights and garish poster colors like back in the late 60s and I vaguely remember from my childhood.
It was very difficult. It reminded me of, it wasn't like this, but say, for instance, you're dancing to a game like Dance Dance Revolution or Just Dance, or, one of these dance games. And they put all these crazy things and all kinds of background animation and all these lights and they try to throw you off so you can't concentrate.
Well, especially if you have the gaming system like yours where the camera is also kind of showing you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so being at this day glow or glow in the dark putt golf called Putting Edge. You were just, if you looked around, you got a little dizzy. So yeah.
Everything was in fluorescent and blacklight colors.
It was cool, though.
It was cool.
It's fun.
It was very cool. On this date, I'm going to do a couple quick on this dates, February 5th, and we're going to tie everything together as we always do, except when we don't, but this time we will. February 15th, FDR escapes assassination attempt in Miami. Okay, I know a little bit about history. I did not know this. I did not know that Franklin Delano Roosevelt got shot at.
I didn't either, actually.
And his attempted assassin, Giuseppe Zangara, an Italian immigrant. No, actually, he was a naturalized citizen of the United States, though he was also an immigrant. He tried to assassinate the president-elect of the United States. And unfortunately, he did actually kill the mayor of Chicago and injured 4 bystanders. So he was given the chair. And unlike nowadays, rather than running him through years and years and years on death row, he was put in the chair just over a month after the assassination attempt.
Yes. What year was that? 1940.
1933.
33.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And I did not know that, but it tells you that people trying to kill the president, or in this case, the president-elect, it's not new. This is something that happens. Zangara pled guilty and refused to appeal, was executed in Florida's electric chair slightly over a month later. Several men tackled the assailant and might have beaten him to death if Roosevelt had not intervened, telling the crowd to leave justice to the authorities. Zangara later claimed, "I don't hate Mr. Roosevelt personally. I hate all officials and anyone who is rich." So that's what envy gets you, is bad behavior and the electric chair. And a few years later, 17 years later, 1950, on this date, Disney's Cinderella opens in theaters. So this would have been 5 years after the end of World War II.
Wow.
And the first decade of optimism. And lots of people who are optimistic finding romance like people did yesterday on Valentine's Day, meaning this was when the baby boom began, the boomer generation. So it makes sense that it would open with Cinderella, a charming film and kind of romantic for a cartoon.
Not very realistic about like wearing a glass, like a slipper, like a shoe made of glass. That sounds not comfortable.
Yeah. The only way I'm going to figure out who this person was, who somehow I can't remember by looking at her, I think there was an explanation for that in the story, is by trying on this glass slipper.
Yes.
And I think the wicked stepmother somehow got him bedazzled so that he couldn't remember who she was or what she looked like. So the only clue was to have her try on the slipper. Or maybe she was wearing a mask. I don't know. I can't quite remember what the story was
I think he just didn't know her and she didn't say her name. So he couldn't find her. And then, it's not like she was an aristocratic lady. She was actually a kind of a maid.
Well, but she was dressed up, magic ball gown and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you wouldn't see her if she was wearing her cleaning clothes and things.
Oh, I see. Yeah. How can you recognize this beautiful woman if she's not dressed up? Good point. There's a feminism angle that we've got to talk about. That is why I make that comment. But 1950s, historians use the word boom to describe a lot of things about the 1950s, the booming economy, the booming suburbs, and most of all, the so-called baby boom. This began in 1946 when a record number of babies, 3 to 4 million, were born in the United States. The thing is, the 1950s was also the dawn of the Cold War, and things weren't getting much better in civil relations. In fact, that was the birth of the civil rights movement in the mid-50s. And anybody who says, I want to go back to the 1950s, I would do a little more research.
I would not want to be in the 1950s.
Yeah, well, you're a woman. If you were white and male and middle class, who wouldn't want to go back to the 50s? It's the weirdest thing because there was a question that came up on the Yarn Brooks show. Somebody asked him, and this is related to an earlier interview Sam Harris did and some of what Harry Binswanger's been talking about. What happens if AI and robotics get to the point where we have realistic, let's say, romantic companions? And the premise by some of the folks writing on this was that, well, men, a substantial percentage of men are going to go find a doll. No, I don't mean a doll like an attractive woman. I mean literally a doll to be with. And bottom line is, color me skeptical as far as that goes. The kind of men who would do that either have some very unfortunate and sad need that's not going to be fulfilled in any other way, or they're just not people who matter. Like who actually do or accomplish great things and ballast, So in any event, women's rights. Yeah, I want a woman who has autonomy and values and free will and her own mind. And, people were asking Yaron in the chat, well, what if you could have a an AI intelligence within a biological body, and you could program her to be more, less uppity, I guess is, they didn't use that word, but you get the idea. I mention this because, in the 1950s, racism and sexism and words that we throw around, and some of us say, oh, yeah, racism and sexism, and people make a big stink about that, but it's just not that big a deal anymore. It's not as big a deal as it was in the 1950s, and that's one reason I wouldn't want to go back. In fact, it was on this date in 1968, so we're talking 20 years later, Henry Lewis named the first black conductor of a major U.S. orchestra. And I've linked to a performance conducted by Henry Lewis. Think about that for a second. You think, oh, okay, well, that's cool, whatever. How were there no black conductors of a major orchestra before 1968? And we toured the bicycle exhibit at Henry Ford Museum. The Henry Ford Museum of Modern American Innovation. And it was great. It was an exhibit, couple room worth of bicycles going back to the 1800s, and then how they were manufactured and how they evolved and all these things. And the American Bicycle Association, I forget the exact name of the group, but the main bicycle group, they were advocates for roads to be better for bicycles and for people to join in this bicycling trend. And they opened up membership to women at one point. They also opened up membership to black people. And there was so much protest that they reversed it.
Yeah, not cool.
And the idea, in 2026, hell, when I was growing up in the 1970s, the idea you're going to say, black people can't do this thing, whatever it is. I mean, obviously it's racist and it's vile and it's disgusting, but it's just perplexing that anybody could consider that a criterion for anything. But 1968, the very first conductor of a major orchestra, Henry Lewis. And we celebrate that today. In fact, yesterday was a good day to celebrate the great black writer and thinker, Frederick Douglass. Which was, incidentally, born in February. Because he was born a slave, he didn't know, nobody was sure exactly what day he was born, given the challenging circumstances. So he actually picked his own birthday. Yeah,
his mother called him her little Valentine, so he had the idea that maybe his birthday was on Valentine's Day. So that's why he chose that, and I'm glad he did, and I'm glad he had a birthday to celebrate. Yeah, what an amazing man. Yeah.
So I am all about celebrating people who have overcome challenges. And if you don't think black people in America have done that, a little more history would be a good thing. Okay, more famous birthdays. Real quick, Galileo Galilei. Born on this date, February 15th, 1564. Lived to be 77 years old. The great astronomer. Fantastic. Of course, there was the fact that he was put on trial before the Inquisition. The Inquisition. I shouldn't tell jokes about the Inquisition. It's unfortunate that we just watched the Mel Brooks documentary, and I can't help but think that everything is a potential target for humor. If you don't know the reference, you haven't seen his film, The History of the World, Part 1.
Yeah, and if you haven't yet, watch the new documentary on HBO. I think it's in 2 parts, and it's called Mel Brooks, the 99-year-old man. It's great. Which
is a title taken off of his old skit, The 2,000-Year-Old Man, that he used to do with Carl Reiner.
Yes. It's a great documentary. And
he is, in fact, lovely. A 99-year-old man. It's been fun celebrating Dick Van Dyke reaching 100. Well, Mel Brooks is right about to do that.
In June.
And is still working. He's producing the sequel to Spaceballs. Yes. Somehow, one of my least favorite Mel Brooks films is getting a sequel. Give me a sequel to Blazing Saddles. Give me a sequel to Young Frankenstein.
Or Robin Hood
Men in Tights. Yeah. Spaceballs.
Well, it was requested by certain people.
A lot of people love that film. If you love that film, more power to you. Yeah, I'll leave that there. Yeah, Galileo did get an apology from the church. 359 years later, but,
Oh, well.
a little bit posthumously there. Jennifer points out William Shatner will be 95 next month.
Wow.
And he's not producing new films like Mel Brooks. He's going into outer space.
Well,
He's like,
kinda.
turns 90 years old, and he's like, take me up to outer space. Yeah. Very, very cool, William Shatner. What's fun about William Shatner, too, is to look at all of the roles that he has played. Going back to the Twilight Zone days before Star Trek and cowboy films and obviously, all the things that he's been in. And yet he's always that guy.
Yes.
Too cool. Way too cool. Galileo famously said, and this was well before he got his apology 359 years later, I do not feel obligated to believe that the same God who has endowed us with sense, reason, and intellect has intended us to forego their use. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that I've heard that same logic used by a lot of atheists who said, everything logical, rational, reason-based tells me that there is no supernatural, including no transcendent beings out there. If there was a God and he created me, the greatest honor I could do to him would be to use that reason, that logic, that capacity he gave me and conclude, no, it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing that transcends reality. So I take that back to Galileo Figaro. It's also Jane Seymour's birthday. She is 74 years old today, and she was responsible, her and John Barry, rather, who did the soundtrack for Somewhere in Time, to introducing many of us to Rachmaninoff, particularly that 18th variation of the Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini that was used in the film, in addition to John Barry's soundtrack, Somewhere in Time. Somewhere in Time is a very charming and romantic film. A good film to watch this weekend, Valentine's Day weekend. I don't think it was her best film. It's actually not Christopher Reeve's best film either. But it's romantic, and it does have great music. If you want more fun, I would watch her James Bond film. She was in Live and Let Die, which also had a great soundtrack because Paul McCartney wrote the theme song and performed it. Jane Seymour, incidentally, was not born Jane Seymour. She was born Joyce Penelope Wilhelmina Frankenberg. When she decided to go for a stage name, she chose, some of you will know this, especially if you're a Rick Wakeman fan, the third wife of Henry VIII was named Jane Seymour.
That's right.
And that's how she chose her name. She, incidentally, has heterochromia, even more strongly than David Bowie did. Her right eye is brown and her left eye is green. Yeah, she was also an Amadeus, and I think she briefly married Ian McKellen, one of her co-stars. I don't remember the film Amadeus. I should probably rewatch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, David Bowie, his both eyes are blue, but he has anisocoria, which made his left eye permanently dilated. So that's why it looks like he has one darker than the other.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very good. Last birthday I've got is Matthew Abram Groening. Yes, the creator of Life in Hell is 70. Well, he also did a series called The Simpsons. Is 71 years old
that's
today.
Groening, is it?
Oh, did I say Groening?
Yeah.
See, I did the yarn mistake. No, because he calls Jonathan Honig, and the reverse of that would be to call Groening Groening. I'm not a fan of Matt Groening, and I can't seem to escape The Simpsons this weekend. It keeps coming up. We even did a trivia game last night at dinner, and I think the very last question that came up, the answer was Homer Simpson, and
Yes.
fortunately there were enough clues that I was able to figure it out at the very last attempt, and there we go with that. So which of Henry VIII's wives outlived him by longest margin, Stephen asks. I don't know the answer to that. Jennifer's guessing Catherine Parr.
Can always put that into Google.
Yeah, I have to look that up. I should re-listen to the Rick Wakeman album, The Six Wives of Henry VIII.
So the answer is Anne of Cleves outlived Henry VIII by the longest margin.
Excellent. I'm glad at least some of them did outlive him.
So by 10 years. So that's nice.
Yeah, Stephen Katz mentions the 12 Chairs. The 12 Chairs was okay. It was strange in that it was, based on a previous story, and the challenge with the 12 Chairs is it's got no likable characters.
Yeah.
The Frank Langella character is probably the most likable, and he's a thief, he's a ruffian, but he's got the charm. It's some films are mostly about awkwardness and cringe, and that can make them very, very funny. But in this case, not my favorite. I'll always go with Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and Robin Hood Men in Tights is pretty good too. Just because it's fun to see Carrie Elways do something besides The Princess Bride. Or
Saw movies.
Was he in those?
Yeah, he was in the first Saw movie.
Oh, Lord.
Unfortunately.
Yikes.
But, yeah, horror movies like that are not our thing, but, yeah. Yeah, Greg is riffing in the chat, says, our pastor did a sermon on asbestos underwear one Sunday when I was growing up. I don't know what to say about that. There's actually an old Kids in the Hall joke about all the new fashion coming out, and it included a beautiful pink fiberglass dress. So, I don't know, you can wear asbestos underwear with your fiberglass dress.
Some of us are so hot. Need that fireproof underwear. All right, I don't know where. I can't even. I'm not able to even.
Nope.
Yes. So, under shameless self-promotion, and what are we listening to this week?
I'm listening to the full cast Harry Potter Goblet of Fire.
So the next volume is out.
Yes, and it's really good. If you like Harry Potter at all, and you thought, I like the books a lot, but the movies were not that great, like me, full cast on Audible Harry Potter books from 1 through 4, they're out, and they're quite good. So
if you've ever listened to an audiobook and you thought, the narrator's okay, but I don't like the way he does the voices.
Right. These are all different voices, so it's a full cast so every actor is doing a particular character, and they also have, music, incidental music, background noise, laughter going on in the background. It sounds like you're watching a movie, without the pictures, of course, but it's really lovely, and it's so well done, and it brings out the kind of emotion that you would think Harry Potter would have reading the books.
That you didn't see in the film?
Right. And also it makes Ron a stronger character, and it's much better, I would say.
So I just noticed in the chat on the Facebook side, Lucy says, 1949, the first artificial flavors?
I guess we were talking about the 50s at that point.
Yeah. I just did a quick lookup, and the short version from Google says, in 1949, artificial flavors were not invented, but the industrial food complex was booming, driving widespread adoption of synthetic additives in products like ice cream. There's a whole conversation to be had about that, and maybe we should at some point. Lucy says her parents loved the 12 Chairs. Dom Louise was in there. That's right.
Yes.
It is. Again, it's clever and it's funny, but it's that kind of awkward and cringy and no particular good guys. And it's, what I love about Young Frankenstein, what I love about Blazing Saddles, and Robin Hood Men in Tights has this to some degree. For all of their over the top and occasionally even, vulgar humor, they've got heart.
Yeah.
They've got heart.
They do.
They
And they're extremely funny.
Yeah. And they're very funny.
I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Well, excuse Amy while she...
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Okay. And so I will be on camera here by myself. Again, under shameless self-promotion, what are we listening to this week? Amy has the full cast version of the latest Harry Potter release. And those are coming out pretty quick. It's getting to the point where the next one may come out before you have time to finish this one. But if you haven't listened to any of them, you've got a lot ahead of you. The first item I put under what I'm listening to this week is the Beach Boys song, Heroes and Villains.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's a very clever song, a very unusual song, especially for the Beach Boys. It was done during the Smile Years, an album that was never released, but the work on that album gave us singles like Good Vibrations, very experimental stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, Amy and I once did an episode of Life on Earth called When the Hero and the Villain are the Same Guy.
Right.
When the hero and the villain are the same guy. There's a link to that in the show notes. And so I think, oh, heroes and villains. What if they're the same guy? See, it's Susan B. Anthony Day today. Susan B. Anthony, yeah, the chick on the dollar coin. Susan B. Anthony was one of the great fighters for women's suffrage. No, not for women to suffer. They were already doing that. No, suffrage, the vote. For women getting the vote. Women didn't used to get to vote. President of the United States, for example. What do women know about anything, but much less, voting for the president? Susan B. Anthony fought for that. Susan B. Anthony was around in the 1800s. She fought against slavery. She was also one of the people who fought to outlaw alcohol.
Yep.
Prohibitionist. Teetotaler.
Yes.
What do you do when your heroes and your villains are the same guy, or in this case, the same gal? Well, we got to see a bit of that, and that was fun. Ayn Rand wrote a letter to Dashiell Hammett, and this has recently been shared on the internets, and it's pretty damn cool. Sorry, I'm just catching up in the chat real quick here. And Paul reminds us in Good Vibrations they used a theremin. That's correct. In fact, we got to try a theremin one day at Greenfield at Henry Ford Museum. They had one out, and I've tried theremins in more than one place. I can't remember if I actually built one myself.
You could.
I used to have the Radio Shack 150-in-1 electronic project kit. I can't remember if there was a theremin in there. There would have been, a sliding version of that with a variable resistor strip. In any event, Lucy says, problem with the suffragists. The white suffragists still made the black suffragists march behind them. Not too bright. Yeah, not too bright is the understatement of the show. I don't understand how somebody who understands one issue like that, who understands injustice, cannot not only not see through that, but not just be ashamed, even if they don't understand the issue, just on a visceral level, to realize, well, I should say, I know that many people made those kind of compromises because the times didn't allow anything else to happen, and it would have been even worse if they hadn't at least been willing to do that. So I should be careful not to judge too harshly without all of the details.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, prohibition was a disaster. And I understand where a lot of the women and men who are prohibitionists were coming from, but that was just not the way to do it.
No. Well,
it was as if, I mean, well, this gets into a little bit more contention, but the thing that pops into my mind, you know, what's under the category of the government or people trying to do something good, but it has, you know, terrible consequences, you know. So, and I think of COVID, you know, let's shut everything down. Let's outlaw this and that and the other thing. And let's not trust the populace with something that that they could probably, with good information, actually deal with, and go overboard with it. And I think the same thing happened with alcohol. And eventually the law enforcement ended up doing horrible things like poisoning barrels of whiskey and killing people.
Yes, many people died from denatured alcohol.
Yeah, as
intentionally poisoned alcohol from the government.
Yeah, So I mean, the road to hell is paved with good intentions is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, some kind of intentions. Tom, I miss Radio Shack too. I totally agree with you on that. It's sad because we have a Radio Shack near Studio Nasir that's an empty building that still has the logos up. And every time I drive by it, I think I wish someone would buy the building.
Yeah.
Because, I just miss the place. And in theory, you can get everything you could have gotten at a Radio Shack in some form or another. But to walk into a store and to be able to walk around and see, not just the electronic components, I'm seeing devices in the front of the store, but the actual components in the back of the store. They had all that stuff in stock. Well, nowadays you can go to Mouser or Amazon, two good places to get electronic components online, but being able to walk in and browse all of those things, those were the days. Yeah. First Moog synthesizer I ever played for a while. Radio Shack was selling a Moog, and too damn cool. So, Ayn Rand's letter to Dashiell Hammett. Who is Dashiell Hammett? Well, he was a writer. He wrote detective fiction, the so-called hard-boiled fiction. He wrote The Maltese Falcon, for example. He was also, famously, a communist. And not a communist the way we throw communist around these days, like, oh, there's a leftist, he's a communist, and give him a hard time. No, he was a card-carrying communist fighting for communism in the United States. And yet he was also a successful writer.
Yeah, and this was 1940, so this is, you had information about what was going on in the Soviet Union by that time.
Now, to set this up, those of you out there who are not communists, and you know who you are, those of you who are anti-communists who say, well, the communists, according to the Black Book of Communism, and you can argue these numbers, but they're in the ballpark, were responsible in the 20th century for the deaths of over 100 million people, many by deliberate, planned starvation. So maybe communism bad. What do you do when you run into a communist? Okay, have you ever actually run into a communist? Well, I've run into people whose ideas were totally communist. Yeah, I mean, have you ever actually run into a card-carrying? Some of you have. Some of you have run into some teenager sitting in his parents' basement. No, it may well be a serious adult on the internet, at his typewriter, at his computer, at his keyboard, talking about how we should be more communist. Why don't we have single-payer health care? We should be like that. Oh, wait, they have single-payer health care in all sorts of countries that aren't communist. You know what I mean, though. Serious communists. What do you do when you run into those people? Too many of the people I know go apoplectic.
Yeah.
They lose their cool. And does that ever change a communist's mind? Does it do any good even for the people watching the conversation, say, on the internet? Does it do any good at all? Does it do you any good to lose your cool?
Yes. No, it doesn't.
Now, Jennifer Leyenberger says run away. That's not necessarily a bad idea. What did Ayn Rand do? When a communist, a known communist, publisher in The Worker, the old communist magazine from the 1940s. And this was an official organ of the Communist Party. This wasn't just some left-wing rag. What did Ayn Rand do when Dashiell Hammett sent her an invitation to an event? This is going to be a fundraiser to fight against Father Coughlin. Father Coughlin was a writer. He was not a communist. He was pro-fascism. He was basically a Nazi.
Right.
And Dashiell Hammett wants to have a get-together. We're going to fight the fascists. I know most of you out there are thinking, wait a minute, there's no difference between fascism, Nazism, and communism. Well, back in 1940, they were. They were different flavors in the ice cream case, and people thought they were very different things. We now know in practice, they both belong on the same side. But they used to think that communism was left-wing and fascism was right-wing. Some people still believe that. So Ayn Rand answered Dashiell Hammett. She didn't yell at him. She didn't call him names. She didn't try to get other people to cancel him. She wrote him a letter. Dear Mr. Hammett, this is very short, so I'll go ahead and read it. It's on the Ayn Rand website. I've got a link to it. You can actually see the original typed letter. Dear Mr. Hammett, and here I thought that you were a detective, and a brilliant one, because the Maltese Falcon has always been one of my favorite mystery stories. Don't you know who I am? This is not to say that everyone should, but I think you should. And if you do, you ought to know better than to send me an invitation like this. Well, you're half right at that. I do welcome anyone fighting against Coughlin's Social Justice, which was his pro-fascist publication. But when you give a party to fight both social justice and the Daily Worker, count me in. And I'll give you $7 per ticket, let alone $3.50. Not until then, comrade. Not until then. And then she signs it. Now think about this. She signs it, sincerely yours, Ayn Rand.
She didn't say blankety blank, blankety blank, blankety blank.
Now, there are a lot of ways to engage with people with whom you disagree. And especially, or even people that you think uphold evil ideas. This is class. No, not class the way Dashiell Hammett would have used the word class. This is classy. This is style. Yes. This is what a great thinker, who's also a great Hollywood writer, would do. This is somebody who puts their own standards, not just intellectual standards, but standards for style, standards for decorum, above whoever it is that she's engaging with. And this is Ayn Rand addressing somebody who was both the hero and the villain. This was a man of ability, a great writer, who was also a card-carrying communist. What do you do when the hero and the villain are the same guy? Mm-hmm. Well, one thing you can do, you can write him a letter and say, yeah, you're a great writer, but I thought you were smarter than this. And very politely and sincerely yours, this is how you do it. And I'm sure most of you know that, but what I wish for each and every one of you is to be able to be that self-possessed, to be able to put your own standards above your own anger or frustration or disgust. And Jennifer says, can I call him a dumbass just once? No. You can. You can in conversation. You can in talking to your friends. You can in any way you want. The minute you let that become part of your conversation, you have just basically scored a point for the opponent. It's a free country. You can do whatever you want. I'm just pointing out I really admire the way Ayn Rand chose to handle this particular situation. I know Jennifer's just being funny. But the way that Ayn Rand handled this, there's a lesson here. And it's not that you should write a fancy typewritten letter and use great verbiage and be super clever. The more important lesson is whatever your own standards are, those should be your standards. I love that line from Ayn Rand. He who fights for the future lives in it today. Well, it doesn't mean you're going to win every battle or that in the future you'll be the one who wins. The point is that when you fight for the future, when you live in accordance with your own values, you're already living there. You're already creating that world, at least in your own sphere of operations, your own sphere of influence.
Your own standards.
In this exchange, who's more important, Ayn Rand or Dashiell Hammett? In your arguments with people on the internet, who's more important, you or them? What do you mean more important? It's a question of who's right and who's wrong. No. Whose standards are you going to adopt? Your own? Or those of the rabble-rousers, of the crowd?
Right.
Or even of your own worst impulses. Lord knows I have plenty of worst impulses. I love this letter.
Yeah, I love this letter. She's putting her values first here. She says, the Maltese Falcon has always been one of my favorite mystery stories. I mean, she opens up with that. She doesn't feel like, oh, if I give him any leeway, maybe he'll think that, or whatever. No. She's just true to herself. She's just putting it out there. And letting him know that she does think well of his work, and that he should do a little investigating. By this time, 1936 is when We the Living was published. And, I don't know how many copies it sold, but 4 years prior to this, We the Living is, again, if you haven't read it yet, it is the most autobiographical novel that Ayn Rand wrote. With regard, it's the time and place is set in Soviet Russia, and I'll say it's not the happiest novel, but it is extremely poignant, and I think everyone should read it to understand how that works and how that political system actually affects people and individuals and what they love and who they value and their plans for the future or not. So, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So good for Ayn Rand. And I need to read more. I mean, a long time ago when the letters of Ayn Rand first came out, I read it, and but that's, I don't know, it's been 20 years or something.
Been a long time. Yeah, it's great that the letters are now all available online, including some that weren't available when the print edition came out. So definitely follow the link that I gave you, or just do a Google search for it. If you go to that one letter, you'll be able to access the whole collection. And it's so much good stuff. So much good stuff.
And sometimes it makes, seeing these kinds of letters makes me want to get rid of my Facebook account and just start writing letters. But I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of wonderful things that come out of Facebook, but being, I don't know, a lot of people, I think, they take away things from Facebook that brings out the worst in themselves, and sometimes that might even rub off on me a little bit.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
It's a challenge to keep your own standards.
Yeah, but lately, if I see somebody who is, I don't know, sometimes I get a little trigger happy with regard to the unfriending in Facebook. And I'm like, you know what? If they want, I unfriend them. If they want to contact me, they can message me still. Yeah,
you never block people, or rarely block people. You just unfriend them so that you're not seeing their stuff every day.
Yeah, and it's
which I think is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
And it's that people are quick to block people. That I don't understand at all. And one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation, let me say this real quick before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Is because, well, this episode is called "And Your Enemy's Closer." You, I'm sure, recognize where that comes from. There's an old expression: keep your friends close, and your enemies closer. And I've mentioned it before. You will find I am Facebook friends with some contemptible people. And you might ask, when you figured out they were contemptible, why didn't you unfriend them? Well, in some cases I have. But there are some people out there I keep an eye on for multiple reasons. And, Jennifer says, I've blocked men who were harassing me. Yes, a very good reason to block people.
Yes.
Yeah, Amy has blocked people too. I think I have 3 people on my block list. Point is, there are reasons I am friends with people on Facebook, and it is not because they are my friends. Most of you out there, I'm sure, are. And you are my Facebook friends and my real friends, at least digitally. But there are some really shady people who I have not gotten around to unfriending. Some of them I want to keep an eye on. Some of them I just don't take seriously enough to bother pruning them. I do curate my Facebook experiences, but most of those people don't show up. Facebook's algorithms are smart enough to never show me, well, I won't name any names, but I think some of you will know who I'm talking about. I just wanted to mention that in case, because there are a couple people who've addressed this, in case you see somebody on my list of friends and think, oh, Robert is tolerating them, sanctioning them, approving of them, or at least not taking the actions that he should. So please bear that. Oh, Joe is in the chat.
Yeah. Hello
there. And hearts for Valentine's Day. Yes. Joe, very sweet. Thank you. So I wanted to say, yes, I do keep my friends close. It's fun to see Joe show up, for example. And I do keep my enemies closer. I don't really keep them closer. Part of the reason why I'm not as quick to unfriend them is because I don't take them that seriously.
Yeah. Keep it going.
In the Dagny Taggart sense, we never did take any of it seriously, did we? And that guy says no, we never had to. And we do have to take it seriously in the sense of we have to fight evil and we have to not sanction people who shouldn't be sanctioned. And we certainly don't ignore or evade evils. But once we've done what we have to do about them, then we let it go. They don't matter. We say they don't matter metaphysically. But what does that really mean? They're just not important. Because evil is not, well, that's a whole different show, a whole different discussion on the banality of evil, but also the impotence of evil. Evil can destroy things. It can't create. It can't produce. And you might say, well, what about certain corrupt people who have created, who have made things happen? And that gets into that whole issue of mixtures. People who are heroic in some ways, or at least talented or productive in some ways, but are also bad in other ways. It's a real thing. It's a real thing out there. Read Ayn Rand's essay, The Cult of Moral Grayness, because she makes exactly the point that in mixed cases, it's a mistake to say, oh, well, then they're gray. No, the important thing is to be very, very precise about what about them is black, what about them is white. I shouldn't even use the colors anymore because it's Black History Month. Let's not do that. But what about them is virtuous or at least productive, and what about them is vicious? And that way, you can deal with these relationships, you can deal with these people and never let it matter. Or to go to the fountainhead, never let it go beyond a certain point. It only goes down to a certain point. And beneath that is everything that matters, everything that you are, all of your joys, all of your passions, all of the things that you care about. I mentioned earlier, and had your own read it out loud as a super chat, that objectivists should be the optimists. And I know people say, they should be the realists. Well, optimism is realism. In a very real sense that what we are surrounded by is pessimism, or at least not the kind of joy, not the kind of passion that is open to us, that is available to us, if we can manage a life in which we are focused on what we care about, what we want, what we are passionate about, what we love. The more of that, the better. So by all means, keep your enemies close and your friends closer, if I can turn that expression around. But you see why I couldn't resist calling the episode and your enemies closer. Again, if you see somebody contemptible on my friends list, don't take it to heart. Trust me that I don't take it to heart either. And I am open to, if you have a message for me about, wait a minute, this person you're friends with, there's actually a good reason you should unfriend him or denounce him or do a thing. I'm certainly open to that. But I hope I've made my point clear. Again, if you haven't read that letter from Ayn Rand, take a look at it. Do go to that page on the AynRand.org website where you can read more of those letters. You know, people get an idea about Ayn Rand because she wrote a book called The Virtue of Selfishness, and she advocated that your life is an end in itself, that you're not born in hoc, in debt, owing by virtue of some social contract, a debt to everybody else on earth, that you can actually have free exchange, voluntary exchange with other people, and that a whole life can be built that way, a whole system, a whole social system, call it capitalism, can be built that way. And some people conclude she was mean. Man, she was mean, and her philosophical system is a mean philosophical system. Obviously, I could argue, we do that. We argue against that every week. We argue against that in every day, everything that we do. But also, oh my gosh, read her journals. Or better yet, read those letters and find out what this person was actually like. And then you decide, hero or villain. This was not a mixed case. I think this is pure hero.
Yeah. And another really good source of that is 100 Voices. This basically people being interviewed. I think 100 people were interviewed about Ayn Rand.
Yes. Yeah.
About their impressions of her.
Yeah. And they weren't all fans. They weren't all admirers. Just people who knew her and can tell you what she was like. Very, very cool. 100 Voices. That's a good book. I don't know if that one's available online. I mean, you can order it online. Yeah. But either way, well worth a read.
Yeah, but in the, I was thinking when you were talking about Galileo, I thought of Thomas Jefferson and his quote, "Fix reason firmly in her seat and call to her tribunal every fact, every opinion. Question with boldness even the existence of a God, because if there be one, he must more approve of the homage of reason than that of blindfolded fear."
Right. Yeah, what'd you give me rationality for if I wasn't supposed to use it?
Right. Whoops, sorry, I can't take it back.
Well, it is a Sunday, so I will finish bashing religion until Tuesday, Shrove Tuesday, when we will go out and enjoy punchkis. If you're in Southeast Michigan, try the Paris Bakery down on Joy Road. They do a great job. The only downside is you got to get there in the morning, and there's a line. There's usually, you're going to stand, bring your music player, your cell phone, something to entertain yourself for half an hour, because you're going to be standing in a line waiting to get a box of punchki. You can get them at a grocery store. You can get them at all sorts of places, but if you want them fresh, Paris Bakery, there's a few other places. Do a search for that. In the meantime, that's it. That's all I got. All that is left is for me to wish you a fine Lenten season. I hope you will pick something that you will give up, not for Lent, but just for your own sake. We have been indulging in all manner of sweets and things this weekend. So we will actually be practicing our own version of Lent this week, getting back in shape as far as our diet and exercise go. I hope that you have had a good Valentine's weekend, that you will be enjoying the coming Lenten season in the most irreligious and charming of ways. I can give you some suggestions on that. Next week, though, we're not going to do that. Next week, we're going to do something political.
Woohoo! Politics! Yay!
We had an episode a few weeks ago where we talked politics. And now for the second time in just a few weeks. Well, this time we've got solutions.
Yeah, well, and it's going to be interesting. I mean, I know, like, a lot of you and myself, I like some of the, what the Bulwark does, that channel, and they're talking about politics in that kind of almost like sportsman-like way of, this is how it all works. This is kind of the machinery or the machinations of it. And that's kind of what I want to get into and ask Rob Trzynski about, since he is running for Congress and trying to understand, how does one run for Congress?
So there's your spoiler. Next week, we are going to talk to Rob Trzynski. It's going to be an interview episode.
I hope that you said spoiler. I thought we already knew.
Just, we hadn't said that yet. So.
Okay. Yeah. So
next week, we are going to interview Rob Trzynski, who, whether you know it or not, is actually running for Congress. He is running for the House District 5 in Virginia.
Yes.
And if you're in Virginia, you could help send him to Washington, D.C. to straighten them all out.
Well, and you can also donate to him, and that'll help.
Yes. So next week we will we will give you all the ways in which you can support this effort.
Yeah, and you can also buy his book, Dictator from Day One: How Donald Trump is Overthrowing the Constitution and How to Fight Back, which was released the middle of last year.
Middle of last year. And we're going to talk to Rob about why that happened. He's already given us the short answer, which was he self-published it because that was the fastest way to get it out. I mentioned that for some of the Yaron listeners because somebody asked Yaron a question. Well, I'm suspicious about people who self-published. And
good.
I explained in the chat, well, you can be skeptical. I think skeptical was the word he used. But there are reasons to do that. And one of them is if you go through a big publisher, it takes a long time. And Rob wanted to get that book out right away. The other thing that Linda mentioned in the chat at the time is that the major publishers, I won't repeat the word she used, but suffice to say, she pointed out that they are unfair to authors. Unless you're a big blockbuster author, it can be tough if you are a writer. So, in any event, we're going to talk to Rob Trzynski. We're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about his writing. And we're going to talk about why are you running for Congress and why are you running on the Democratic ticket?
Whoa! Democratic ticket, oh my gosh.
Now, some of you already know the answer to that because there's an established Republican there and not a good one that Rob is going to be running with if he wins in the primary first. Yeah. So again, it's getting to be, it's coming up soon and it's going to be important that he gets all the support he can before the primaries so that he will then be in the general.
Yes.
And that's all this year. And so that interview is coming up next Sunday. We'll be doing some extra publicizing of that. The link to it is already up in YouTube on my channel at youtube.com/Robert Nasir. If you want to share that episode with friends over the week coming up, you can do that. Now, some people, including us, find Rob Trzynski somewhat controversial in objectivist circles. Let not your heart be troubled, though. This interview will be handled appropriately, and definitely do help us share it. We want to get as many people to watch this episode coming up as we can, and if you decide it's right to help Rob in this endeavor, and I'm inclined to think, based on the ad hoc nature of this activity, we'll talk about that this is the right thing to do, then please do share the show and join us next Sunday. And that's it. All that's left for me to do is to thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of the 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir experience. If you are a patron of the show, extra thank yous to you. Folks, you can become a patron of the show. You can send us a couple dollars a month to help keep the lights on by going to patreon.com/Robert Nasir, or just go to robertnasir.com, scroll to the very bottom, and you will find all of those links. Either way, whether you've got that pocket change or not, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us in the chat. We appreciate your comments and questions. And all that's left is for us to wish you all of the success that you so richly deserve. I know you deserve it, because you wouldn't be here watching a show like this if you didn't. And that is why also one day after Valentine's Day, but it is never too late, we wish you love.